Today's a fun topic. We're talking about how to make the police disagree with one another. In most criminal cases, there are several different police officers who are involved, and it can be very helpful if you can show that their narratives or their stories don't specifically line up. It can be helpful in your pre-trial negotiations with the prosecutor. It can be helpful in any evidentiary hearings that you are putting on in front of the judge, or it can be helpful in front of a jury when you want to show the jurors that there may be some discrepancies between different stories that the officers are claiming are fact. And so this is how we do it. What you want to do is you want to first recognize that there may be more than two different officers, but you build a chart and you want to have a list of different attributes in the one column. Different things that the police are going to put in their report. In this example, we're going to do this for a DUI case. So we're looking at different things that we see in police reports. Police will often comment on eyes, pupils, faces, somebody's breath, somebody's speech, and different items here: clothing, attire, lighting, weather, road conditions, and different things like that. So what you want to do, and if it's a domestic type of a case, or if it's a traffic case, or if it's a much more serious felony, or whatever it is, you want to come up with a list of different attributes that the police are discussing in their police reports. Then you want to make two other columns. So in column 1, we'll have officers 1 narrative and officer 1, that person's report. And then in column 2, we'll have officer 2's report. So in a DUI case, there's usually an arresting officer. There's usually one officer who does the traffic stop. Then there may be another officer who shows up after the traffic stop. Then there may be another officer who does the actual DUI investigation. There could be up to 6, 7 officers. It really just depends on the type of the case. But then what you do is you go through each officer's report and you take their specific language out in their report as it applies to each attribute. So say, for example, we're looking at a case like this. This is a hypothetical case, and one officer says that this person's eyes were bloodshot. Okay, so we'll call it bloodshot. That may be accurate according to that officer. Officer 2 may say that they're bloodshot and watery. So it's just a different language. So one will say bloodshot eyes, the other one will say bloodshot and watery eyes. Let's say pupils. So this officer may say that the pupils were normal, and this officer may say that they were wide. When it comes to the face, Officer 1 may say that it was flush. Officer 2 may say that it was red. The breath, if they're talking about an odor of an alcoholic beverage, Officer 1 may say that it's strong, and Officer 2 may say it was present. And it's the same thing as you go down the list. So speech may be slurred here, and this one may be rapid. Clothing may be normal. Clothing may be disheveled. Balance may be wobbly or unsteady. They're supposed to use the same types of words, so not wobbly, but sometimes you see officers who kind of write sloppy reports. So that's a difference. What's unsteady mean? What does wobbly mean? For attitude, may be compliant. One may be aggressive. Lighting may be clear. One may be visible. Weather may be cool. One may be cold. Traffic may be light. Traffic may be medium. Unusual activities may be none. And maybe we'll say none. We'll say that's the same. Nothing unusual in this case. So you can see here that these are sort of kind of generic things that you would want to consider in a DUI case. But you can see here how there's many differences between the different officers. So you have a difference here. One's missing the wateriness. One's missing here. One's normal. These are two totally different observations. One's flush, one's red. So that's a difference. Now, the officers may explain them the same. So one officer may say, well, flush means to me, it looks a certain way, that there was some blood around the eyes, or blah, 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 whatever that officer's description of flush is. And an officer B or officer 2 will say it was red, meaning the whole face was red, not different areas of the face were flush. Strong odor versus a present odor. So one officer noticed it very strongly. The other one said, yeah, it's there. So there's a difference there, a difference in levels of intensity. Same with the speech. Same with all of these different criteria. We don't need to run through them again. But that's how you do it. You go through it and you say, you pull the specific language out of the police report and you make a chart. If there's a third officer, you want to note that officer as well, and you want to say, okay, this is what this officer said happened, and note where they didn't comment on things. That's another big issue too. If an officer didn't comment on something, why not? So if this officer is talking about speech, but this officer didn't say anything about the speech, why not? Was it rapid? Was it slurred? Was it normal? Was it not notable? Why didn't that officer comment about it? It's a difference. One officer thought it was worth commenting upon, the other didn't. And so you come through this list and flesh it all out. Like I said, doesn't matter what the case is, you want to flesh it all out. And then when you are going into a trial, you can then use these differences to flesh out differences between the officers. So if you're asking Officer 2 these questions, and you got the Officer 1 to testify about these things, you can ask the officer, well, it says in your report that you noticed that there was watery eyes. However, Officer 1, whatever his or her name is, didn't notice that. Is that right? Sure, that's true. Okay. So now you can just start to flesh out these discrepancies between each one of these different attributes. What that does, practically speaking, there's a reason we do this. It's not to be petty about these differences. It's not to be petty and say, well, flush and red were close, or cool and cold, they're close enough, or these things are all close enough and we're just trying to quibble over little things. What we really want to do is show that all of these observations are subjective. Okay, that's the big key point here. They're all subjective. Officer 1 has a very subjective personal experience on how he interprets these things. Same with Officer 2. And these same principles are still subjective throughout the entirety of the case. So if they're going to take these observations and claim that they witnessed certain things during a field sobriety test, during a one-leg stand, during the walk and turn test, during the horizontal gaze nystagmus test, you can show that these are all very subjective observations. Officer 1 observed things one way. Officer 2 had an entirely different set of observations. And there's big differences between how they interpret things. So you can use that throughout the remainder of the case, and you want to establish this principle that an investigation is subjective. Just because an officer said one thing doesn't mean that he's in total agreement with every officer. Unless you see something across the board, they all said this happened, then you will probably want to shy away from that one particular attribute. But it almost never happens. There's going to be differences between these officers because they are subjective. There's a lot of differences in the way that these things are observed and reported, and you can use that to your advantage to show the jury, to show the prosecutor, to show the judge that although one officer said it happened one way, there's a lot of different interpretations to the reality. It may not be that accurate. So I hope this is helpful. This is something that we do in a lot of our cases, not just DUIs, but it is a way that you can really take a big, long, boring paragraph in a police narrative and break it down. Find the key attributes, pull out the language that the officers were using, and then show how those differ from officer to officer to officer. And if you're able to flesh out enough of those, you may make the case that an officer really didn't observe what he's claiming he observed, because there's major differences between what he or she and the other several officers observed. So I hope that's helpful. Hopefully you don't find yourself in this position, but if you do and you want to run through this with our office, sit down and have a conversation about how we can help you with your case, give us a call. We offer free case evaluations and look forward to meeting with you. Thanks for watching.